The Angels and the Cardinals are both making moves, but the Angels, they did something for the first time since 1978. Lance Lynn, all of a sudden, he's fixed. And of course, the Dodgers and their voodoo or sorcery, yeah, they're the ones to do it. And Julio Rodriguez, he just had one of the best two-game stretches of baseball I've seen in quite some time. All of that in today's MLB recap. We do this almost every single day, so click that subscribe button. Leave a like if you enjoy these videos. Use code Fuzzy on SeatGeek to save 20 bucks off, and let's start talking baseball. Now, before we talk about all of the highlights from yesterday's games, we have a crazy breaking story. The Angels have officially hit the final panic button. They're calling up Nolan Schanuel. I think that's how you say his last name. If I botched that, please let me know. Why is it crazy news? He was drafted a month ago. Now, to be fair, it kind of makes sense because Jared Walsh, he was DFA, so they don't have Jared Walsh anymore. CJ Cron, the newcomer, he's hitting 217 with the 55 OPS plus. And the other newcomer, Randall Grichuk, he's hitting 179 with the 54 OPS plus. The Angels are 4-11 since the trade deadline came to an end, so they're trying one final Hail Mary with Nolan Schanuel. He played in 2 single-A games, then he got called up to double-A, where he hit 340 with 16 walks to only 9 strikeouts. He skipped triple-A entirely. I guess now the question is, the Angels are 7 games back of the wild card. Was it the worst move in the history of baseball to not trade Shohei Ohtani? Let me know in the comments. Now, we have one more call-up to talk about later on, but we'll get into that after the Cardinals game. Coming up, we have the Royals and the Mariners. One game after collecting 4 hits and a few RBIs, J-Rod, he added to his total with 5 more hits and 5 more RBIs in this one. He had an RBI single in the second, an RBI double in the 6th. A few more hits kind of scattered in between, while Kansas City all of a sudden made a comeback. MJ Melendez had a double to give Kansas City a lead. It was 4-2 after 6 innings, so if J-Rod had 5 RBIs and we've only showed 2 of them, there we go. Now the math is mathing. That is a 3-run moon bomb. That's his 5th hit of the day. So he has 9 base hits over the last 2 games. He raised his batting average almost 15 points in 2 games. And like I said yesterday, Cal Raleigh, he hits a home run pretty much every single recap. He has 8 home runs and 16 RBIs over his last 20 games. I think he has 22 on the season. Matt Brash, he had an easy 1-2-3 9th inning, his 4th save of the year. Seattle is now 15-5 over their last 20 games, and they're just a half game back of the Blue Jays for that final wildcard spot. Here we go, the Nationals and the Red Sox. Tristan Casas is going to be a nightmare for opposing pitchers for a long time. Lefty 431-foot tank shot. I mean, he's hitting 337 with 11 home runs over his last 30 games. The only thing is, Boston starting pitcher Chris Sale, he ran out of gas. I mean, he's trying to come back from a lot of injuries, so this kind of makes sense. After an error from Rafi gave Washington their first run, Meneses, he ripped a huge 2-run double in the 5th, his 28th double of the year. Stone Garrett, he followed it up with an RBI double of his own, and then CJ Abrams, he knocked in 2 on a single, but Joey Meneses, he wasn't done yet. He laced his second 2-run double of the night. He's hitting 293 with 15 RBIs over his last 20 games, so it was 9-1 Washington after 6. Make it 9-5. Newcomer Luis Arias launched a grand slam, his first home run as a Red Sox after being traded from the Brewers, and then Rafael Devers made things even more interesting with a prodigious 455-foot 2-run home run. He is one of 3 third basemen ever with 210 doubles and 165 home runs by the age of 26, joining Manny Machado and Adrian Beltre. That is some pretty impressive company. The luck for Boston did run out. Stone Garrett, he had an RBI single, and Kyle Finnegan, he turned in his 19th save of the year. So here's a real quick look at the standings. Boston, they fell to 3.5 games back of the wild card after they've lost 2 in a row, and like I mentioned, the Mariners, they're just a half game back of the Blue Jays. There you go. Now, staying with some wild card talk, Fuzzy, you're showing the Mets and the Cardinals game. These teams are not in the wild card race. Well, we'll talk about that after the highlights, because a lot of baseball fans have pretty much been saying that the Mets season is all but over, but like, don't tell that to Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor. Since the trade deadline, Pete Alonso has 7 home runs and a 1041 OPS. He's up to 37 home runs and 92 RBIs despite missing a handful of games. Lindor, he's hitting 305 with 8 RBIs in 15 games since the deadline. Jose Quintana was cruising for 5 innings, but he ran into Tyler O'Neill, who bashed his 7th home run. He's missed a lot of time, but since he's returned from injury, he has 5 home runs and 13 walks in 20 starts. His chase rate has been way better ever since he came back. St. Louis, they got it to within 1, but Tim LeCastro, his solo home run in the 9th sealed it for the Yankees as Trevor got the save. The Mets are winners of 4 of their last 5. They're 7 games back with 40 games left. So if you're a believer in the Angels, you probably have to be a believer in the Mets as well. Both are 7 games back. The chances aren't great, but you never know in the game of baseball. Now, because we just talked about the Cardinals, St. Louis is finally calling up their top prospect, or at least their second best prospect after Jordan Walker, Mason Wynn. If you don't remember, Justin Turner, back when he was with the Dodgers, he kind of clowned and mocked Mason Wynn for throwing 100 miles an hour in the Futures game. That's the same kid that we're talking talking about. In AAA this year, at 21 years old, Masyn Winn is hitting .290 with 18 home runs, 17 stolen bases. I guess the best comp for Masyn Winn is 2023 Ha-Seong Kim. He can do anything on the diamond. So because we just talked about the Mets, we're going to talk about a former Met, Tommy Pham. He is still very much deleting baseballs from existence. 430 feet to bring home Corbin Carroll on that 2-run tater. He has 5 extra base hits and 10 RBIs in his first 12 games as a member of the Diamondbacks. Gabriel Moreno, he had his first home run since returning from the IL. By the way, they cut Carson Kelly to make room for Mr. Gabriel Moreno. We'll talk about why that's important in just a second, because Zach Gallen, he was awesome yet again. He has been a thorn in the Padres side all year. Zach Gallen, over his last 3 starts versus the Padres, he's allowed 1 run with 22 strikeouts over 19 innings. He's been absolutely out of his mind versus San Diego. Justin Martinez, I didn't even know that he existed until now. He picked up his first save of the year. Paul Sewald, he's been used a ton, so he was given the day off. The Diamondbacks, they've won 3 in a row, and they're 1 game back of the wild card. Now, like I mentioned, Carson Kelly, he was cut by the Diamondbacks. He was one of the bigger pieces in the Paul Goldschmidt trade. Every single player that the Diamondbacks got is pretty much gone. Luke Weaver, Andrew Young, we have Carson Kelly. The only player left is Dominic Fletcher, who's been pretty solid. He is the brother of David Fletcher, so there you go. The Paul Goldschmidt trade, one of the worst I've seen in quite some time, but then again, he was going to be a free agent, so maybe not all that bad. Here we go. The Brewers and the Dodgers. Lance Lynn and Corbin Burns must have been betting each other before. Okay, joking. They did not bet on baseball. I'm going to just make sure I put that on the record. But man, neither of them wanted to give up a run yesterday. Corbin Burns went 7 innings, did not allow a single run. And oh, by the way, he struck out 9. So this was vintage Corbin Burns. Oh, and then there's Lance Lynn, who also went 7 shutout innings in 4 starts as a Dodger. Lance Lynn has a 1.4 ERA and 25 strikeouts in 25 innings. All 4 of the runs that he's given up have been on solo home runs. So I feel like the Dodgers kind of have the old school pitching approach when it comes to Lance Lynn right now. Just attack the zone. If you give up a home run, make it be a solo home run. Attack hitters and really limit base runners. And if you give up a solo home run, so be it. A guy beats you. It's going to happen more often. But Lance Lynn, he is 126 strikeouts away from 2,000, so he's definitely going to get there by 2024. It's still 0-0 in the 8th inning when the gates of heaven opened, and Austin Barnes, he was lifted by an angel from God himself. That's Austin Barnes' first home run of the year. He raised his OPS plus to 8, not 80. 8. Single-digit OPS plus. Evan Phillips, he struck out 2. He has 18 saves. The Dodgers, they've won 11 games in a row. So before we do today's Immaculate Grid, I want to give a quick update on the stat leaders and standings across baseball. Luis Ariz, he's still hitting .361, but that's a far cry from the .390 a couple weeks ago. So Freddie Freeman and Ronald, they are catching up. Look at Cody Bellinger hitting .327. Zach Gallen and a bunch of other guys, they're tied for 13 wins. Home runs, we have Pete Alonso creeping up. He has 37, but he's still behind Shohei and Matt Olson. ERA, it's Blake Snell just ever so ahead of Nathan Eovaldi and Garrett Cole, along with Justin Steele. RBIs, 107 for Matt Olson. Kyle Tucker has officially overtaken Adolis for the RBI lead in the American League. Saves, we have 2 guys, Alexis Diaz and Camilo Doval at 33, with a bunch of guys, or actually 2 of them at 32, Clase and Felix Bautista. Hits, Luis Ariz over Ronald. Strikeouts, it's Spencer, strikeout Strider. Ronald Acuna Jr. is 7 ahead of Esteury Ruiz, but Esteury, he is coming for that stolen base crown. And then in terms of quality starts, that is 6 innings without allowing more than 3 runs. Logan Webb and Garrett Cole have done that an MLB best 18 times. Like we mentioned earlier, the Mariners have won 3 games in a row, and the Blue Jays lost before yesterday's game, so the Mariners are a half game back. The Angels, I mean, again, they're pushing every single panic button right now. They're 7 games back, just like the Mets, 7 games back after winning 2 in a row. The Padres, they lost, so they're now 5 games back. The Diamondbacks are 1 game back of the Reds, the Marlins, and the Cubs, who are all tied for 2nd place in the NL wildcard. So I'm looking at today's Immaculate Grid. It actually looks fairly easy. I might be able to do this in under a minute, so without further ado, 3, 2, 1, Rockies and the Brewers. Brent Sutter, I only know this because he follows me on Twitter. The Rockies and the Nationals. Okay, maybe I was wrong. I don't know who did that. CJ Cron. I know CJ Cron had 100 and something RBIs a few years ago for the Rockies. The Reds and the Brewers. I'm going to go Jesse Winker. He has been terrible with the Brewers. 16%. That kind of sucks. The Reds and the Nationals. You guys remember this dude back in the day? Kind of the first ever version of Joey Gallo, Adam Dunn back in the day, 100 RBIs for the Reds. I was doing some research. Jay Bruce was a dude back in the day. I think he had 100 RBIs. Yes, he did. The Mets and the Brewers, we have Omar Narvaez. I got to speed this up. Omar Narvaez. Mets and the Dominic Smith. There we go, Dominic Smith. Oh, this is looking really good. The Mets, Lindor. Lindor had 100 RBIs last year. And then who was a national... Oh, hand. Done! 83 rarity score. I think I did that in under a minute. Let's go. I hope you guys enjoyed today's recap. If you did, leave a like. If you're brand new, hit that subscribe button. Use code Fuzzy on SeatGeek to save 20 bucks off, and I'll catch you in the next one.